All right, we are recording. And then I'm going to ask two things of you to record your participation for the PD credit. I need you to put your name in the chat box, and the school you're with would be helpful. And then in about an hour, as we're wrapping up, I will ask you to put your name in the chat box again. So I will remind you of that in a few minutes. And this is how I can give Jennifer Yankee your names so she knows you were here so you can get your credit, okay? So I think you are scheduled for this session for an hour and a half, but it should take about an hour. So we should be wrapping up around 11. Okay. Awesome. Thank you all so much for doing that. All right, so we're in the high school resources session, and I'm going to show you a few kind of housekeeping things first. The first thing I want to show you is this padlock in the upper right-hand corner. Now, there's two ways to use this. Typically, what happens when you're at kyvl.org and you're away from a district building, when you're in a district building, access is seamless and no ID and password is required. But when you're away from one of the buildings at home, at McDonald's, wherever you might be, you will need to log in. And there's two ways to do that. You can choose a resource. So say I want to use, let's say I want to use Learning Express. I might choose a Learning Express resource and be prompted to log in. Or I could go to this padlock and go ahead and log in with my ID and password for the district. The other purpose of the padlock is to request password. So if you don't know, well, I'll use mine. If you don't know what it is for the district, you can put in your school email address and click submit, and the ID and password will be emailed to you instantaneously. And this also works for student email addresses. So it's not just for the staff and the teachers in the district. The students use it too. Second thing I want to show you is under For Librarians, under Librarians Toolbox, under Handouts over here on the left. We have this K-12 resources poster. And I'm going to scroll up a little bit so you can see everything. So down the left, this is everything that we have that's considered for K-12. There are a couple things that are not on this list because they sort of toggle into college levels, so we left them off. But it will show you the name of the resource, like Britannica School. Britannica School has encyclopedia articles, magazines, images and video, maps and atlases, primary sources. And then the second half of the columns are features. So this has audio or text to speech, does translation, has Lexile, has citations, and has Google Classroom integration. So two of the resources you don't see on this list is Academic Search Complete and the EBSCO eBooks Academic Collection. Those are great for high school if you've got some dual credit students or AP level, but they tend to be more for college level, but we will cover those for those of you who need them. Let me just check chat, make sure no one has a question. And do feel free to unmute yourself to ask me questions. I'd love questions. I love people being interactive. So I would love to hear from you if there's things you're curious about. Scrolling down the page, we have some scavenger hunts. So if I open this one, scavenger hunt for high school. So we've got scenario 1. Your teacher has assigned you a project to investigate the life of Henrietta Lacks and how HeLa cells have been used. You will look to Britannica School first. So I've got a series of questions. It's a page front and back. And then the answer key is in the librarian's toolbox too. So if you want to help your students get familiar with the resources, and here's one exercise with Academic Search Complete, which is one of the research databases. You can certainly use these scavenger hunts. Further down, under high school resources, we have this quick reference handout, which I'm not sure how it's going to work virtual. You know, it might be something that you could hand out in your classroom, but it basically lists the resources that are good for high school. And then there's a spot at the bottom to put the ID and password. So depending on how you're approaching school this fall, you could certainly put the ID and password in this and then throw the document into Google Classroom, because as I understand it, this is your first year using Google Classroom. All we ask is that if you create a website, that you don't put the ID and password somewhere that anybody can get to it. We do like it to be secure. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is KYVL Quick Search and finding publications. So the quick search is at the top of the page. And what I can do is choose high school. And this is for a situation where the student just doesn't know where to go. They're just sort of feeling out their topic. So this is about as broad a search one can do. Cancer, click go. And since I haven't logged in yet, I need to do that. So what we've done is pulled from resources that seem to be most appropriate for high school. And I don't know why, sometimes when I'm on Zoom, you can see this little guy spinning. That's a topic overview that's trying to load. And when I'm not on Zoom, it works fine. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But it's like an encyclopedia article that's several pages long. So here we've got an ebook on cancer. We've got some other ebooks. So there's some higher level resources here. But what I can do over on the left, there's 500,000 journal articles from Academic Search Complete. There's newspaper articles. Gale in Context is awesome for writing position papers or looking at current events. So that tells you where the resources are coming from. And then here I can narrow by source type. So if I just want magazine articles, I can click on magazine and it will refresh the page. So that's something to try out. I can also look at this ebook. And like I said, something about Zoom makes my system slow down. I don't know what that's all about. But then here's an ebook in PDF that I can look at. And this looks like it gets into 4 types of cancer and would give a good overview that certainly would be better than Googling the topic. So that's something to try out, is the quick search. Something else I can do with this, I'm going to take cancer out and I'm going to put it on for everyone, is something called publication title search. So I click up here on the blue bar for publication title search. And then if there's a particular magazine I'm looking for, particular journal. So say I am, let's see, maybe I am looking for Science News or Scientific American. This tells you every journal and magazine that we have. So I do recommend getting familiar with it. It's pretty simple to use. It's a couple clicks. But I can choose Scientific American. And then here's the entry for it. I click full text access. And then this tells me all the different research databases we've got where Scientific American is contained. So we've got some K-12 resources where it's held, like Moz Ultra. Moz Ultra is the high school database. Consumer Health Complete, Academic Search Complete, and so on. And it will also tell me the range that's covered. So we've got 2007 to present. So I'm actually going to choose Academic Search Complete. And then on this page, there's 2 things I can do. Over here on the left, there's a link for search within this publication. So if a friend told me about a particular article in Scientific American, or I was curious if a particular topic had been covered, I could do a search. Let's just do solar energy. And so now I have 128 articles just about solar energy that are from Scientific American. So some of these are going back to September 90, January 2008, 2017, and so on. If I go back, the other thing I can do is open up a particular issue of Scientific American. So over on the right is a list of all the available issues. So I can open up August 2020, Women in Surgery, Stars on the Move, Societal Health, Masks and Emasculation. Oh, that's interesting. Toxic Transformation. So something to pay attention to with this, when you're looking at a list of article titles from a journal or magazine, sometimes all we have is HTML full text. More often than not, there's a link here that says PDF full text. But if it's just the HTML, unfortunately, you're not going to get the images and whatnot that you would see in the paper version, but you do get the text of the article. So just keep that in mind, that sometimes you're not going to get the PDF of the magazine or journal. But from here, say I was interested in this article, I'm going to go through these steps a few times. I can share this to Google Classroom. So over here on the right under Tools, I can create an assignment. And assign it to the class. I can also throw it into my Google Drive. So typically what I do when I open up my web browser is just by default, I log into Google. And then if I stumble into any sort of research for myself or for work, I tend to throw it into Google Drive. I can also get the citation. So let's say you need MLA. So I can copy the MLA citation, and the URL for the article is here as part of the citation. And then there's something called Permalink. And this is important if you do build pages or assignments within your Google Classroom where you want students to read a particular book that they find in KYVL, or read a particular set of articles within KYVL. You do need the permalink. If you copy the web address at the top of the page, that will not get the student back to this article at a later time. You need the permalink. And as you can see, there's a unique number here at the end of the permalink, and that identifies the article. So with everything we've got, there is a permalink of some sort that you can copy and put into an assignment or onto a website. Okay. So let's move on. Unless there are questions, I am certainly happy to take questions. Anybody? Okay. Oh, question? Not so far. All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to close some of my tabs. Okay, we are going to start on the 4 K-12 students high school page. And the first thing I want to show you is Academic Search Complete. And as I said before, this is a little bit more for advanced research. So there are academic journals, more high-level magazines and content. So depending on your topic, this might be a great place to go, or it might be overwhelming for a student. I can see using this in AP class or dual credit. It just depends on your students and the types of assignments that you have. So the first one I'm going to look up is, I don't know why, but this chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy. And it will make suggestions on your topic as you're typing. And sometimes those work out and sometimes they don't. Sometimes there are no results. So I don't quite get that, but here we've got, if you see source types, we've got 365 academic journals and 7 magazines. So if I was curious about the magazine articles, I can just checkbox magazines. And then here's the 7 articles. And then here is the PDF full text that I was talking about. So this is just a short piece in Neurology Review about duloxetine, I guess. But as you can see with the PDF, it looks like the original. So those are always great to have if you have that option. If I want to look at academic journals, I check off magazines over here on the left. And then you can see these are some pretty high level academic journals. But I have found in my own personal research or when I've been helping out faculty, you know, at different levels that there is a mix. So you can find articles that aren't too hard to read. You know, I don't think I would choose this first one about intraepidural electrical stimulation, but I might be interested in this classification scheme of chemo-induced neuropathy. That might be of interest to me. And what I also like about Academic Search Complete is that it shows you thumbnails of any charts that might be included. And oftentimes these charts can be downloaded or viewed as a high resolution image. So that's always great to have if they need to see the details. So you can see, again, we've got the thumbnails. If I do, let me just pull up a PDF to show an example. Over here on the right, I still have my tools. So I do have Google Classroom over here. We've turned that on. And then there's a link to the article. My Google Drive is there. Citation is there. So I can grab my citation, and my permalink is there. So even though I'm looking at the PDF of the article, I still have my tools that I'm familiar with. All right. And I can also download this PDF. If I want to put it on my device, I can certainly do that. And so now if I wanted to, I can read this PDF at a later time. I don't have to read it right then and there. And that's something I like to do a lot. I've got a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old. And what I try to teach them is that you can do research in 5 and 10-minute chunks. So you can have your cereal in the morning, your toast, whatever, and get on your phone or your iPad, do some research, get copies of the articles. You can email the articles to yourself. You can put them in your Google Drive, and then you can come back to it when you've got time. It doesn't have to be something where you have to sit for an hour and it be a slog looking after, you know, one after the other, reading articles or looking for titles. You can do it in little bits when you've got a chance and take advantage of those little moments in time. All right, so I'm going to go back to my result list here in the upper left corner. So I'm going to click result list. And then for my screen, I default to the advanced search, which is 3 fields. If you all don't see that and you want that option, if you just see one search box, let me know and we'll get it turned on for you. But I'm going to click new search. And let's look at HeLa cells and contributions to science. So this is kind of a short list, so I would probably refine my search and do something a little bit better. Can't say I'm too happy with my search in this situation, but you can see I still have my options to narrow my results on the left. There's a date slider if I need more recent publications. I can slide my publication dates and that narrows my results even more. All right, that's the quick overview of academic search complete. Does anybody have questions about it? No? Okie dokie. I'm not going to get into Alt Press Watch today, but just know that Alt Press Watch is great for non-mainstream sources of information. So I'm just going to open it up for a minute. And go to publications. So there's only about 300 titles, but they're very specific. There's things about mindfulness, social emotional learning. There's left-leaning publications. There's right-leaning publications. There's middle of the road. American Poetry Review is in here. You'll also find Mother Earth News and Mother Jones within Alt Press Watch. There's a lot of titles related to the ADA. So it's just really interesting. I recommend checking it out, but we won't cover it today. Okay, Annals of American History is primary sources, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So Annals of American History, not a lot of bells and whistles with this. There's a few ways to navigate it, but it contains historical accounts, speeches, memoirs, poems, editorials, cultural criticism, key pieces of legislation that have been passed in America's history. What's great is also, I say speeches, but also presidential speeches. I can choose something off the timeline, so 1866 to 1833. And then if I just was curious about what had been written during this time, so let's look at this, the immediate restoration of the state governments. And I'm going to make this a little smaller. And what it does with each piece is give an introduction and give context. So it explains what the item is about and what its particular significance is. What was happening in the US at that time. So it looks like Alexander Stephens, former vice president of the Confederacy, was asked if Georgia would accept full African American suffrage. as a condition for readmission to the Union, and this is part of his testimony. And so there you've got the full text for it. Citation is at the bottom of the page. There's only one citation format. It's not like EBSCO where you've got a handful or more to choose from. I can email this to myself or somebody else. I can print it, and then if I click Cite this document, it will take me to the bottom of the page. I can also do a search. So let's look for Kennedy. We've got almost 60 results. Eulogy for John F. Kennedy. We've got a speech by Kennedy, 1965, Lyndon B. Johnson. And then there is some audio available, and it is public domain audio. So this is about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I can download the audio to listen to at another time. And it's an MP3. And there is the citation here as well if I need that. So it's its own little thing. It's primary sources, very specific, but very useful. If you need perspectives from a period of time or legislation that you're looking for that would have been controversial or popular, this is a good place to look instead of trying to Google it and track it down that way. Does anybody have questions about Annals of American History? Like I said, I love questions. I'm all about questions, so just speak up. No, okay, thank you. But if you do, just unmute yourself and we'll talk about it. Okay, the next one. Britannica School is an encyclopedia. That's its purpose, that's its function. It does have country comparisons, biographies, images and videos, but its sole purpose is just information in encyclopedia format. So let's say I'm looking for, I don't want plants on fire. How about plant cell, popular search, plant cell. And this is actually what I'm interested in. Let's see what this is. And here's the structure of a plant cell. So from here, I can print this, I can email it to somebody, I can get my citation, and this has the link to this image in the citation. I can copy the link. So here's the permanent URL that I've been talking about, or the persistent link, and I can copy that and put it somewhere. Or here's the Google Classroom integration. So I can make an assignment. And assign it to my class. Oops, hit the wrong button. We're going back to high. I can do country comparisons. So say I want to compare Algeria and France for some reason. I'll get some basic information that compares the two. And then if I go to articles in media, I get some encyclopedia articles, I get flags, some images, potentially some video, things like that. If I go back to the home page, I can also go into the biographies section. So I can look for a particular person, or I could look for somebody from somebody who's Austrian, and I might even pick an era. So if I was looking for somebody from the 1500s, these are the biographies of Austrians during that 500 years. So that's an option. Let's look up chemotherapy. And then we have some related therapeutics, treatment and development, but I'm just curious about chemotherapy basics. And then what this is showing me is that there's 3 levels to this article. So level 3 is the high school level, and some of these can be quite long with a lot of sections. Level 2 is the middle school level. Level 1 is the elementary level. So if there was, what I often show for the middle school is that you can toggle up to the high school level. If I click send to this little arrow, I can send this to Google Classroom. And assign it. If it's just to give some basic background on something, I can print it, I can get the citation, and I can copy that and put it somewhere. There's translation option. So now we've got the translation. I'm going to go back to show original. And then here's a speaker for read aloud. And I totally forgot to show you that EBSCO has that same option when you're looking at the HTML full text. You can do translation and you can also do read aloud. So I don't know if you were able to hear that, but it does highlight the text as it reads. Okay. We are on target with our time, but I certainly, if you have questions, have time for questions. So just let me know. The next thing we're going to look at is the academic ebook collection from EBSCO. And this is thousands and thousands and thousands of ebooks for high school, college level. There's biographies and memoirs, there's fiction, literature and criticism, mathematics, political science, psychology, the sciences, just all kinds of subject areas. So I could, over here on the left, browse by fiction. High Wire Moon, Prince of Monkeys, not my area, so I'm not familiar with these. Here's a novella called The Loneliest Band in France, and there's a PDF of it. So if I look at the ebook, I've got a couple things I can do. I can readjust the view, bottom right-hand corner. So that since this is a novella, it's very short, and there's not, it looks like sections into chapters and things like that. But depending on the ebook, there might be a chapter list here, and depending on your needs, you could download chapter by chapter if you only need a couple chapters to assign on a particular topic. But in this case, what I can do, I've got my citation if I need it. I have my permalink if I need it. If I was building a particular page in Google Classroom and I wanted to assign this reading, I can grab the permalink and do that. Or I can use my Google Classroom button, as you've seen me do quite a few times so far this morning, and add it to my Google Classroom. There is an option over here on the right to do full download, and let me explain that. All the ebook collections that we have, you can download the book, and it's not dissimilar to using Overdrive from your public library. You have to create a personal account to EBSCO to download the ebook. But what's awesome about this, if you do that, let me flip back in my pages just a minute. I've got so many logins, I can't remember them all. And I'm not sure if I'm going to find it. Let's see if I can remember it. Oh, what do you know? I remembered. So if you do full download, you grab the whole book, it goes on your device. You can go on your Chromebook, your laptop, whatever, and then it's checked out to you for 12 weeks. And what's magical is that we don't have any cap on number of users. So if you wanted to assign a science book, whatever, to your class, you're not limited by number of copies, and you're not having to pay per copy. We paid the licensing fee. We have unlimited use. 100 kids could read the same book and it would be okay. They're not going to get blocked out from using it because they're number 178. So just keep that in mind. Depending on your needs, you may think that a link to the book is enough, and maybe it is for your class. Or if you want to do the full download for something bigger that they're going to be studying over a period of weeks or months, that's an option too. So just keep that in mind. There's the Permalink, the Google Classroom, Google Drive, and then the full download, which comes to your device. And I don't think I have anything loaded. Yeah, I don't have anything loaded on this computer, but there are instructions on how to do that on the ebook main page. Okay. New search. I can, excuse me. So ebook collection, down here is the instructions on how to load the reader and how to create an account for downloading an ebook. So I browsed fiction. Let's say I'm looking into nanotechnology or nanomaterials. So here I've got nanomaterials from 2015, nanomaterials, science, technology, and applications from 2014, nanomaterials from 2012. This one's from 2010. So I can sort by date newest. And here we've got some conference proceedings, Journal of Nano Research, Nanomechanics and Nanomaterials. This looks good. This is 2019. So I'm going to pull up the PDF of this. And I resize my image. Oh, this looks like this is symposium. So this is probably way over my head, but here are the chapters. Methods to improve energy conversion efficiency of dielectric elastomer generators. So just something to play around with. Go check out the academic ebook collection. It's just a wide range of publications and titles in there. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, and I may actually go over a little bit on time, is this Gale in Context, Opposing Viewpoints. In its simplest terms, this would be considered a pro-con database. So like I said earlier, what I do is I open up Gmail or Google when I'm first in my browser and I log in. So now that I'm opening up Gale in Context, the first thing I'm going to do here in the upper right-hand corner is click Sign In with Google. And now Opposing Viewpoints is tied into my Google account. And as you can see now, I've got my Google Classroom option. So there's several ways to navigate this. I can browse issues. That's kind of here in the middle. And this will show me every unit that they have where there are viewpoints and reference materials. There might be podcasts, there might be news videos. You can search a subject. Let me show you what that looks like. I can search a subject. And here's the difference. So there's issues, which are sort of like these pre-packaged units on a particular topic. Or I could look at Civil War or civilians, and it's going to pull from different units. So civil rights, civility in modern society, and civil liberties are all issues that have been pre-packaged by opposing viewpoints. But I could also look up civilized or civil society. Excuse me. Today in particular, I'm looking for, I'm just curious, let's see what we've got. Technology and education. So this has an overview of technology and education that I can read. And when I look at this, the level 5 is the college level, level 4 is high school level. So it just depends on your students, what's necessary. There's translate, so I can translate this article. So I'm going to cancel that. I can play it and listen to it, and this uses the same software that EBSCO uses to read its HTML articles, so that should look familiar. I can download it. So now I've got a PDF of this overview on my hard drive. And then also up here on the menu bar, I can get the citation, and I can throw the citation into my Google Drive. I can send this to my Google Drive. And so there's a lot of options here. So if I didn't want to save the PDF onto my hard drive, maybe I'm using somebody else's computer, I could do a send to and throw it into my Google Drive. I can download, print, I can get the link. And there's one feature here that I want to highlight called highlights and notes. So if I found something particularly thought-provoking or something that I wanted to make a note on, I can do that. And so if I save that, why are you not saving? Come on, I'm being impatient. While it's saving, these blue boxes are things to think about or questions to consider. They might also be main ideas. Why is, okay. So in a perfect world, what happens when you make a note, and I think it's Zoom interfering again, where it says highlights and notes here in the upper right-hand corner, the number will go to 1. But let me show you what it looks like. If I don't already have a Gale in Context folder, it will create one. So let's look at, here's highlighted articles. So this is what it does. If you make a note, it highlights with the color that you wanted, and then it puts your notes with it, and then the bibliography. So these, I just have one, but you could have several. So it's great for studying or recording main ideas for writing papers. And then if I just got the citation, now this is full text, but let's see if we can find, here's some citations, genetic engineering. So there's the citation. So that's what happens when you're in the article. And you send the article to your Google Drive, or you send the citation to your Google Drive. Further down, this is the unit on technology and education. We have viewpoints on the topic, and it doesn't tell you if they're pro or con. So here we've got locked out of the virtual classroom. Online learning will be hard for kids whose schools closed, and the digital divide will make it even harder. We've got other viewpoints to look at. Reference items tend to be like encyclopedia articles. Infographics are cool, especially this interactive infogram. So let's look at digital learning hardware, just for the sake of example. So I can actually change my chart a little bit. And depending on the infogram, some are pretty detailed where you can take out respondent groups, things like that. So this is an interactive infogram. There's also statistics. So these are just charts. You can't click on anything. Audio, so we've got things from NPR, like All Things Considered and Morning Edition. We've got news items. And you can see the numbers on these. We've got over 2,700 magazine articles, over 3,000 news items. And so it's all brought together. We've got almost 300 academic journals. And then there's related topics, K-12 education, mobile apps, online education, students and homework. So you can really, really, really go down a rabbit hole when you look at one of these units in Gale, opposing viewpoints. We're starting to run out of time. Does anybody have a question about Gale in context? I really haven't given it justice with the amount of attention that it deserves, but okay. I don't see anything in chat. All right. I'm going to go back to the high school page. And there we go. And there's two other things I want to show you. Well, three, I'll just mention it. Explora for high school, depending on your students' needs, Explora covers encyclopedia articles and magazine articles. So you can do one search. So let's say nanotechnology and medicine. And let's say I want to focus. Here I've got encyclopedia articles, number 7. So there's 7 of those. Or there's 40 different magazine articles, or there's over 400 academic journals. So if I did just want the encyclopedias, I can click on that. Oh, and it's doing that thing again. Typically, topic overview pops up right here. I'm going to have to talk to EBSCO, see if they know if there's some sort of interference from Zoom that's making that happen. So Explora is great for a quick overview on a topic because you get the encyclopedia entries and other materials. The next one is Moz Ultra. And Moz Ultra is built just for high school students. So if I was looking for articles on COVID-19, this is a great place to go. So this is, the first article is from Discover Magazine. And then we've got Time Magazine, New Scientist, Nation, Vital Speeches of the Day, History Today. So you don't get the encyclopedia articles, you don't get the academic journals, but you get just articles that are specific to a high school audience. And in this particular instance, we've got some that are into July and August. So it is current events. So that's pretty awesome. You're not getting older, you know, outdated years ago publications. Any questions? I know I'm just about to let you go. All right, the last thing I want to show you is Teen Book Cloud. This is another ebook resource that we have that has no limits on simultaneous users. So there is fiction, so graphic novels, some other things. Enhanced ebooks, we'll look at those in a minute. There is nonfiction. So Letter from Birmingham Jail by Martin Luther King Jr. Drama and poetry. So if I wanted to read Macbeth, I can open up Macbeth and do read online, and here is the play. Enhanced ebooks have audio. So these are nice. So if I open up Shattered Glass and do read online, the difference here, I know this is confusing. You see these green arrows at the bottom. Those are not play buttons. Those are just arrow keys, and those move you through the text. But then over here on the bottom left is a blue play button, which does play audio. And I don't know if you'll be able to hear it or not. And it highlights the text as it goes along. There are also graphic novels. Okay, so there's a lot here. Videos are National Geographic videos. AP English are titles that are typically assigned to an AP class. And then audiobooks are just audiobooks. So they tend not to have the text, but they do tend to have music and sound effects, which is awfully fun. It just depends on what the story is. So if it's something like selected poems, you're probably not going to get sound effects, but this Mahalia Jackson, you're going to get the full experience of an audiobook. The last two things I want to show you, if you all will bear with me, is the index. And as I said, we don't have limits on simultaneous users on any of the ebooks we've got, regardless of where they came from. So if you want to assign an ebook from Teen Book Cloud, let's look at this one. So this book ID, this number, if I click on that, here is the direct URL for this title. So I can copy and paste this into a Google Classroom assignment and say, read this book. And I can have all 25 of my students read it, and no one's going to run into any problems reading it. The other thing I want to show you is the search option. I had a student back in the spring who was really struggling with Macbeth. So I said, well, let's just see what we've got available to us in Teen Book Cloud. And so here's Macbeth the play. Then there's Macbeth the audiobook, which is just the audio. And then the enhanced ebook has the narration that goes with it. And then there's even a graphic novel of Macbeth. So Teen Book Cloud has a lot to offer in a lot of different formats. That is everything I want to show you. I know that's been a whirlwind. If everyone would put your name in the chat so I can share that with Jennifer Yankee. I appreciate everyone's time. If you have questions, you can go to kyvl@ky.gov and you can ask me a question. I'm happy to help you anytime. That's what I'm here for. So everybody just sign out of the chat and I'll get this recording up on YouTube and I'll share that with Jennifer as well. And I certainly appreciate everyone's time. Thank you. Okay, everybody, please put your names in the chat before I sign off. I don't want you to not get credit for being here. Okay, I think Amanda and you two are good. All right, thank you all.